Hello everybody, so I changed out the camera area. It's more over here than over here. I changed the light to purple. You can see the background is also purple. Well, it's more pink. This chapter is going to be a little bit longer, so this video might be 30 minutes, depends how fast I read the chapter. Anyways, let's stop talking about it and start reading the book, shall we? Alright. Color is good. Alright, so here we go now. He'd only just met Maze, but he could already pick her voice of out of a crowd. This time, she was. Oh yeah. This time she was the one who was kneeling beside him, shaking him. Wake! What happened? What did you do? Come on, car, get up! For a few seconds, his ears worked better than his eyes. He and Maze weren't alone anymore. He could hear several accents and dialects in the lobby around him and the sound of people arguing about what to do. He opened his eyes and learned that he was the center of attention for a second time in a half an hour. He blinked hard, trying to get his eyes to work right again. Maze asked him, "Are you okay?" He said, "Yeah," he muttered. "I just need a minute." He could see Maze then, and he focused on her face to calm himself down. Although, from his point of view, she was either kneeling above him, looking at him upside down, or else her head had come loose from her neck, my bad, and she was speaking through her tattoos. That was what was different about Maze. He thought as her face came into focus. Most of the Marylands he'd met had facial tattoos, but Maze didn't. "What do tattoos have to do with anything? Are you okay?" she asked. Uh, sure, replied Carr, feeling caught again. "Why?" "Because you cried out in pain and then passed out on the floor," she shot back. "Oh, yeah, right." Carr had done that so many times that he had forgotten how scary it could be to people seeing it for the first time. One guy told him it was like watching a space slug give birth to triplets. Another said it was like he was wrestling some invisible entity. What nobody had ever said though was that it was like he was a Jedi. But he hoped that it was just because they'd never seen one. "Are you gonna get up or what? You're making anybody worry." She sat up straight, cross-legged, so she wasn't hovering over him anymore. "That was scary." "Sorry. I'm fine, don't worry." From his position on the floor, Carr stared up at all the gawking faces. The most concerned-looking face belonged to the Ovesian headmaster. Maybe it was because he was interested in the boys' welfare, or maybe he was worried about how this would affect his school. But most likely it was because he stood next to Ryok, who didn't look concerned at all. "Loser," the Biaslisk, that's a hard thing to say, muttered. The headmaster said, "Let's get him up on his feet." "Yeah," echoed Ryok. "He's got the tingy coming." But luckily, that's what Ryok said. But luckily for Carr, the tension was the last thing on anybody's mind. The headmaster inclined his four-horned head and asked, "Are you okay?" "I'll survive, I always do." "We should still contact your parents," he said. "You need a doctor." "Sure," said Carr, even though he knew that uh, doctors would be no help. Actually, we have a medical droid on hand for whenever this happens. These seizures, they've been happening off and on for years. I can I can just call RZ. He'll come check out me out. The headmaster agreed and helped him to his feet. I do I do remember reading something about that in your file. Go ahead and call your droid. Okay, everyone, let's give him some air. Car activated his comm link. RZ7, I had another seizure. I'm sorry to hear that, sir, said the droid. I'm on my way. When everything was settled, the headmaster instructed everyone who hadn't fainted dramatically to get back to class. I should probably wait outside, Carr said, hoping he was about to get away clean. Maze piped up, and you shouldn't, and should someone go with him or something in case it happens again? He's in a very fragile state, sir. The OVCN thought about that. That's not a bad idea. I could go with him, she said. Mr. Kaganato already yanked me out of class. Anyways. Is that right? Is that alright with you, Carr? Sure. He came to a decision and nodded. Then get home safely, and we'll see you again when you are well. Wait a second, cried Ryok. He's not getting detention? That's next to dog. Mace flashed him with a rude finger gesture as she left the building. Of course, I'm guessing it's this one. On their way out, Mace said quickly, "You said you could see the past when you touched things. You didn't say anything about falling to the ground and screaming." I didn't? Well, sometimes I fall on the ground screaming. Now you know. The family speeder appeared in the distance, and soon Carr could see the familiar figure of RZ7 in the driver's seat. Medical droids didn't usually drive, but it wasn't so weird that anyone said anything about it. As the speeder pulled up to the school, where an assortment of other vehicles were already parked, the area was dotted with all sorts of land speeders, large and small, and the only thing that had in common was the only thing they had in common was that they were all kind of beat up. Most of them were either secondhand vehicles, or they belonged to teenagers who were still getting the hang of driving. Hey, Carr, I heard you died today, someone said. It was a Togruta hanging over the side of his speeder. Too bad I heard wrong. He laughed and zipped away. Maze turned around and shouted, I don't even know. Okay. Ichu ta'ana du para mamas. That's what it says. Different language. Different dialect, my bad. At the retreating vehicle. Did you just say? Something about his mother, yes, and his father, and some business dealings with the Hutts. It's a wonderful language for swearing. He nodded and impressed. Thanks, I guess. That was great. No one ever stands up for me, especially not at school. I hope you don't regret it later. I never regret anything. Wink, wink. The idling land speeder sputtered a bit, suggesting it needed a new coil driver, but also drawing Carr's attention to a potentially awkward problem. Oh no, he said in embarrassment. RZ brought the two-seater. With surprise, she asked, "How many speeders do you have?" He cringed. just the one, but it only has 2 seats. So Maze laughed. Don't worry, I'll sit in your lap. He blushed all the way down to his toes. I'm really sorry. There isn't more room, but I mean, you're the one that offered me to see. You offered to see me home. As Carr crawled into the passenger seat, he gestured. He gestured to the droid. Anyway, Maze, this is RZ. The metallic blue driver gave her a nod and an acknowledgement. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, madam. Same here. Maze climbed and sat on top of Carr's thighs, wrapping her arms around his neck. If RZ7 had any eyebrows, he would have raised them. We better get home, sir. You're turning all red. Just drive, Carr grumbled. Maze ignored his blushing and his awkward grip on her waist. So, she said brightly to RZ7, you're a medical droid. And they make you drive too? Carr answered for him. Yes, I mean, no, between you and me, he's not really a medical droid. I built him, and I don't know anything about medicine, so neither does he. The droid revved the engine, and the speeder lurched along. Wait, hold on. He doesn't know much about driving either. Pretty sure that was Carr. I don't know. Anyways, it was hard to. Is it focusing? I'm sorry if it's going out of focus. It was hard to talk in an open air car that was zipping through the desert, but that was all right. Carr didn't know what to do anyway. But whenever they slowed to make a turn or wait for a train, Maze peppered him with questions. What do you mean you built him? She shouted over the spear's hum and the rumbling of the train. I made him from parts I found here and there. He's working with a circuitry of a protocol droid, the hard drive of an astromech, and the casting of a medical unit. But what he's really good at is getting me out of tricky situations. You're just lucky the headmaster didn't ask him for his evaluation. Carr laughed. RZ can't evaluate anything. Anything bigger than a splinter in my finger. I built him to be my friend, not my nurse. Well, aren't you handy? The train was slow to get out of the way, so Maze had time for one more question. I never asked you, how you got that crazy ideas about the Jedi? My crazy ideas, he sputtered. Their story is a mess. Nobody agrees about who they were or what they could do, and there's no proof they ever existed at all. The stories are lies, and that's all there is to it. RZ7 revved the engine and ducked the speeder around the last train car. My grandmother told me about the Jedi, and she would never lie. Then she was crazy and wrong. That's all. I'll tell her myself. When can I meet her? The road opened and wind picked up, so the car had to yell to be heard. You can't. She's dead. Free your mind, Jahara said to Carr. He tried, but his inside voice couldn't be quieted. He was 17 years old, and his thoughts revved at a pace usually reserved for engines and cruisers. Though he had practiced this many times before, he still couldn't quite get it right. Still couldn't move an object. Was it him? Was it his teacher? Jahara and never truly explained how she knew so much about the Jedi. And he began to wonder if she knew what she was talking about. He was growing restless and impatient. This would probably go quicker if he had a real Jedi to train him. But of course there were none. They were all gone. They were gone. If they even existed at all he had was his grandmother. All he had was her word, and it was beginning to wear thin. Of course, Care loved his grandmother. She was the light of his universe. But even so, there were days when his recent cloudy disposition would block that light. He had been working with her for a few years, and yet he felt no closer to becoming a Jedi than becoming ruler of the galaxy. He was of the age where adults stopped appearing as adults and started appearing as peers, flawed peers, and in moments of discontent, Carr would notice the cracks in a lot of Jahara's stories, like the Sith Lord could live to over 500 years of age, and how a Jedi could move objects or make people believe things using only their minds, where they meant to be fables, longer life lessons, merely intended to make an impact on the listener. Because if so, there was a word for that: myths. But they were also written about history in the history archives, so this confused them. Maybe the truth was somewhere in the middle. Perhaps the Jedi were wise people who had radical ideas of peace and were also good at wielding lightsabers. Maybe the idea that everyone was connected to an energy field was just a hopeful fantasy. Maybe the Jedi were just really good at convincing people of that. Try again, his grandmother said. Carr sighed. It's not working. It will, she said with her usual confidence. You always say that, but it never does. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe I don't have the Force. Maybe I have a sort of tumor or something that's giving me these headaches, and we're wasting time with this when we should be finding a cure. That's your mother talking. We spent all this time learning about the Jedi, and yet I can't do anything they can do. I can't make anything say what I want them to say. I can't fight someone using my mind. Of course you can't, she argued. Why would you want to do and why would you want to? That's not the Force. Those are byproducts of playing with the Force. You're looking at it the wrong way. A Jedi does not want to fight. A Jedi are the peacekeepers. They do what they do. Okay. Well, I want to do is give up, he shouted, and he threw the cup across the room, half hoping his grandmother would yell back and fully hoping that she would finally reveal from some last-hidden secret that would solve all of his problems. But Jahara did not take the bait. I understand your frustration, my boy. I can't claim to fully know what you are going through, for I am not like you. I do not possess any abilities with the Force, but I am versed in it, and I am doing what I can to help you find your way. But how do you know about the Force? He asked. For a moment, her gaze went elsewhere, inward almost, and then she replied, "Like you, I found it around me. I asked questions. I was open to it. Do I have all the answers? No. Do I know more than most? Maybe. And so together we will take this journey and perhaps find something wonderful." Carr took a beat before asking the question he hadn't had the heart to articulate any earlier. What if I don't want to be on his journey anymore? He almost he was almost afraid to look at Jahara for fear he might have hurt her feelings. But when he did lift his gaze, he saw that she had an expression of someone who had been expecting that question for a long time. She turned to walk away, throwing out the casual, "You must do what you feel is right with the Force." Carr grunted. Sometimes her serene personality had a way of enraging him, but he agreed to humor her one more time. One more time, so he could justify abandoning all hope. "Fine, I'll try to levitate it again." "No," said his grandmother, quickly turning back to him. "You're angry. You want to destroy something. Very well, destroy it. But do not do it from a place of calm, not anger. Visualize it, crush it." Carl looked at the cup on the floor. It hadn't cracked. It hadn't cracked when he threw it across the room, and that worried him. Just his luck that he picked the toughest cup in the galaxy to try to crack. "Picture it," his grandmother said. "Use the space around the cup to tightly condense your grip around it." Carl looked at the cup. Then he closed his eyes and raised his hand, concentrating, using the Force, focusing on the space around the cup. But it was hard. Harder than he wanted to be. Harder than it had the right to be. "Concentrate," his grandmother said again. A word he had begun to hate. Concentrate. He clenched his jaw tighter, but for every breath that seeped out of his mouth, a measure of doubt seeped into his brain. Concentrate. Carr couldn't help thinking of all the holes in her stories, the confusing timelines, the convenient connections. Concentrate. The description of powers that no one had ever seen with their own eyes, with no one could attest to. Concentrate. The stupid act of trying to use imaginary powers to crush a stupid cup. She told him tales of Jedis levitating large objects, and yet he couldn't even levitate a cup. Why? Because they were myths. They weren't real, and he was no Jedi. Concentrate! Carr spun toward his grandmother with an anger that he didn't know had been festering for years. "I can't do it," he screamed. "I am not a Jedi. There's no jet." But when he looked at Jahara, the old woman was grabbing her chest and falling to the ground. "Grandmother!" Jahara winced in pain and grabbed the nearby tablecloth, dragging it to the ground, plates crashing beside her. The sound of shattering glass confused Carr, since that was the exercise. That was what this exercise was all about, and yet something had gone horribly wrong. "What have I done?" cried Carr, and he ran to her side. I'm so sorry. The old woman looked at him weakly, but as always, it was she who comforted him. "You didn't do this, Carr. There's nothing to be sorry about. I am an old woman, and this is the way of things," she said, gasping for air. "I'm glad I had the honor of showing you who you are." Carr's mind raced as he tried to figure out some way to help her, but she didn't seem to want help. She seemed proud. She seemed happy, at peace. "Don't be sad. Continue your training. Go out in the galaxy to learn your place in it. I will still be here. I'll still be on this journey with you." And with a smile, She quickly passed away. Part of Carr knew that it was just Jahara's time to go, but he felt responsible. Had she spent so much energy with him that it weakened her? Has she devoted all this time training him for nothing? Carr couldn't live with that, and he became more determined than ever to prove that his grandmother was right, that he would become a Jedi. And that was in chapter 3. That was an emotional one. I was really into it. Anyways, make sure you go check out the rest of the videos down in the description. Part 1 and Part 2. This is Part 3. Make sure you go check it out. These videos are going to be extra long, as I said. It's 5 a.m. I've been up all night, so I need to make one more video. Maybe take a little nap and start working again. And my nose gets stopped up. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. All stuff in the description down below. Comment down below if you like this series. I love reading to you guys. You know, people don't have time to pick up a book and read, so here I am. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good day.